Hi, welcome to the Pier 54 podcast.
I'm Amanda Kimmel.
And I'm Shannon Coach, and we are your hosts.
Hello, welcome to the April 11th episode of Pier 54. Today's Thursday, and that means we're going to do a general hospital history lesson. Today, we're going to take a deep dive into the history of the Baldwin family. So today, Amanda is going to tell us all about the Baldwin family from the 1960s, 70s, and 80s, and then I will cover the 90s through today. So Amanda, what did you find out about the Baldwin family? I know I had a crazy time.
Exactly. I learned so many interesting things that I didn't know. I thought a lot of today's characters were stemming from that time period, but the more that the characters developed, I saw that a lot of that family had all died off, and it's really just Scotty that's left along with his kids. So you can get into that side of it, though. It all began back in 1963 with Lee Baldwin joining the 7th floor as an addiction counselor. His brother Tom Baldwin made a brief appearance. He was on the show until 1976, and that is how we ended up with Steve Hardy adopting Tommy Jr. Tom Baldwin was married to Audrey Hardy, then realized that she was still in love with Steve, so he raped her. She got pregnant with Tommy, and then after she had Tommy, he left town, and Steve ended up adopting Tommy Jr.
I see, that's crazy because I totally forgot that Audrey was raped because I was like, how did we not know this? And then I remembered
that she told
Elizabeth.
Yes.
So,
yes.
Oops,
and I love those throwbacks that they do because, again, 76, neither one of us were born. I would have not known that.
No.
So, I don't like how often rape has played into their stories, though, and then they end up
about that. I'm like, there's an awful lot of rape in the
and Luke and Laura ending up together afterwards and all that. I don't know why that was such a big storyline back then, but I'm glad that we're moving past it.
We need to stick on the Baldwins today, but there was a whole thing in the 90s where Luke told Lucky the story of how he raped Laura.
True.
And basically apologized and said that was the absolute worst thing that I've done in my life. Because it's a big deal because they didn't even go to commercial break during it. They just did it straight. So it was the very special episode of the daytime drama. So
see?
Yep.
All these fun facts. Okay, so that takes us back to Lee, who met Meg Bentley in 1965 when she showed up into town with her son, Scotty. Lee adopted Scotty, and then Meg died shortly after that. And then came in Carolyn Chandler, who he was married to or in a relationship with for about 3 years. And then she passed away. So poor Scotty has had a mom and a stepmom pass away in such a short amount of time.
Who's his biological dad?
You know what? I saw that somewhere and I don't know. I will look that up whenever you're talking.
I'll
come back to that. And then Lee ended up marrying Gail in 1977. And that is why Scotty thinks
those are
her
his parents.
His real parents.
Yeah.
There wasn't too much information about what Lee had done during the time he was an attorney. We knew that he represented some of the major characters, Edward and his ELQ scandals and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
In 1983, he ran for mayor against Luke and had Scotty be his campaign manager.
Mm-hmm.
And Scotty was doing all kind of shady stuff like he was at that time period and was threatening Luke to stop running to be mayor or else he would expose the fact that Bobby was a prostitute. And once Lee found out about that, he did not appreciate those tactics, so he fired Scotty as his campaign manager.
So Lee's a really good guy.
He is a good guy.
He's no.
Right, we have to win this fair and square, which I thought was nice. And that explains a lot, too. And again, I don't know how much you watched when, but they always talked about what a disappointment Scotty felt like to Lee. And I was like, I don't understand it. I mean, he did some shady stuff, but I never saw
I've always thought that Scotty was such a sleaze, to be perfectly honest. I'm just you're trying to break up Luke and Laura's wedding.
Well, he's had a lot of women friends. We can definitely agree on that. So once Lee found out that Scotty was essentially blackmailing Luke with the information about Bobby, then he fired him as his campaign manager, and Luke ended up winning the election. But when Laura was then found out to be alive, Luke gave up his seat and let Lee take it over until 1985. And that is whenever Lee and Gail left to explore the world. That's pretty much the history of all that. And then
explore? What was Scotty doing after Lee fired him? Was he doing anything?
Nothing that really comes to mind. That was whenever, he was going to school and then having his multiple
Yeah.
affairs that
'Cause
you're going to
that's-
get into.
I was going to say, I'm like, because that's the thing is that like these characters go away for years
Yes.
and we never hear from them. And then they come back and they're like, oh, hey, which I will get into because it ruins things. So now we're in the 90s and I used generalhospitalfandom.com.
Oh, yes, I used that. Thank you.
Then there was also generalhospital2fandom.com. I'm not sure if they are affiliated or what, but I'm going to list them separately.
I was also on soapcentral.com.
I was on there also. And our favorite, Wikipedia.
Yes.
And a little YouTube, but I'm not going to play anything. I'm just going to tell you to go watch stuff on your own. So let's get started with the 90s because this is later when I really started watching. And I feel like I forgot most of my teen years from reading this. I'm like, who's that? And then I had to look things up. I'm like, oh, yeah, I remember her. So in 1993, Scotty married Dominique Stanton. They first got married because they were drunk in Vegas and woke up from a hangover. They did actually, when they came back to Port Charles, they did file for divorce, but they called off the divorce. They actually fell in love and stayed married because that's what happens. Then Dominique found out that she had a brain tumor, kind of changed perspective. She wanted to give Scotty a child. So they got Lucy to act as a surrogate. And it's actually really sad because Dominique passed away right after hearing the baby's heartbeat.
Mm-hmm. You don't remember that? Oh my God.
I wasn't watching then. That was 1993
Oh, okay. 93,
because I was in middle school.
Right.
So
you didn't get out.
I didn't get out
early
in
enough.
time.
Yes,
and we didn't have, what we have now for technology to rewatch it. My friend's mom didn't VHS it for us. She watched it live and
related.
That was it. Yeah. So tell me about it. Do you remember it? Or was it just horrible?
I just remember bits and pieces because, in my opinion, even at that time, Lucy was already kind of trying to get with other people's men. And so when she offered
because that was mentioned. Did she have a thing with Scott before Dominique? Or
I thought they were just really good friends.
Okay.
But they may have.
Because there's a little bit of conflicting statements somewhere, but I go with the majority rules on this stuff because I'm like, all right, if 2 out of 3 say this, I'm going with the 2.
Yes.
Except for what I'm going to get into next because
I just remember it seemed like although Lucy was friends with Scott, that maybe she wanted a little bit more, but I don't remember them having an actual relationship at that point. So when she offered to be the surrogate and they accepted, even at 93, I would have been 13. Even at that point, I was like, oh, this is trouble. I don't think we're going in a good direction.
Right.
But I liked Dominique. She was very nice. She was beautiful.
Yeah.
So it's sad that she had passed away.
Well, because they mentioned that she comes back later as a ghost to Serena. And I'm like, I do remember that.
Mm-hmm.
But for the most part, I don't think I don't remember her. So then just a year later, we find out that back in those crazy college days, Scotty fathered a child to his secretary, Rhonda, and the baby's name is now a high school graduate. Actually, that's probably appropriately timed.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, they did good. Karen Wexler, who I know is one of your favorites.
Oh, my all-time favorites.
And, I'm sorry, back to Serena being born. This is where I was talking about YouTube. There's a really, really cute video on YouTube showing Lee and Gail at the hospital visiting her for the first time. And I mean, they are just gushing over her. And Gail pulls out this little yellow sweater that she knit. And she's like, I told Dom that I was going to finish this. She wanted the baby to wear it home. And I'm like, oh, okay. I don't even know this whole storyline, but at 2 minutes, I was just like, oh, I like you guys.
That is like the blip that every website gave was they were just so happy to learn about their grandchild.
Right.
They were just so happy to learn about their grandchild.
And that
no matter where they were in the world. So I love that they portrayed them as doting grandparents even from that moment.
Because, so it says that, so here's the thing. After Serena was born, GH Fandom says that Scott and Lucy fall in love and they adopt a baby girl, Christina.
Mm-hmm.
However, this was in Port Charles, not General Hospital.
Right.
So
you've never met Christina.
There's another Christina floating around out there with no storyline. This is why we don't do weird spinoffs. She's out there.
Well, they brought Serena back whenever Lee passed away. They had done that whole memorial to him.
Yeah, for like a minute.
And Serena came home for that.
Yeah.
She's living in Paris with her younger sister, Christina. Right. But Christina doesn't come home.
Right.
I didn't understand.
I don't know. See, I don't remember her saying that, But then here's the other thing. Do you know that Serena also has another sister, Olivia Locke?
That's like, once you say that, then my brain is like, yes, but I can't give you
Well,
any storyline there.
That's Livy from Port Charles, who is now Sam McCall.
Oh.
So I went down that rabbit hole. So we are sticking to GH though, because
yeah, we'll be lost forever if you go on those other
we
shows.
can't. But so that's the thing, is that at the same time that apparently Scott's finding out that he's Karen, that
Karen's dad.
that he's Karen's dad.
Please don't be Karen. That would be a whole new.
He's also away with Lucy, falling in love and adopting a baby girl. And there was one thing that I read, and it just said, Serena and Christina have never come back from Paris. And I'm like, no. Except for, you're right, Serena did come back for Lee, and I totally forgot about that. It also mentioned that Lee and Gail were very accepting and welcoming of Karen. And then in 2003, she was killed by a car. However,
on Port Charles.
This was on Port Charles because then Gail had to talk Scotty into donating her blood to Lucy. Could not find out what the heck was wrong with Lucy, except for in my head, what I'm thinking, because I know Port Charles has vampires. Was there something wrong with Lucy's blood that she needed good blood? But then, like, we don't talk about the fact that Lucy has Karen's blood now.
Right.
So, but we talk about BJ's heart
Yes.
being in Maxie, but we don't talk about Karen's blood being in Lucy. So we really just...
And that's another reason I don't like Port Charles, the spinoff there, because Karen and Jagger were such an important part of the 90s storyline with Stone and Robin and all of that, that I personally really fell in love with those characters. So for them to push them off onto Port Charles and then have them come back in 2003 and be like, oh yeah, she's dead. Like,
yeah. Now, Jagger's Antonio Sabato Jr., right?
Yes.
Because my aunt had a picture of him hanging on her wall. And I remember...
I had his whole
when
calendar.
I was younger, I was like, yeah.
You
know, like it was like one of the first, I still remember the poster.
He was beautiful.
Aunt Erica, if you're listening to this, I still remember your poster.
And he was like the original leather coat, motorcycle.
Yes.
Like,
it was like a black vest, I think.
Yes.
Oh, it was back when when the guys just wore a black vest with a tan and jeans.
Right.
Yes. I'm pretty sure that's what it looked like. But then also at the same timeline, it's saying that Scotty almost married Catherine Bell in 1993.
Mm-hmm.
So then that would have been before he found out that Karen was his daughter, but at the same time that he was married to Lucy, adopting Christina
in Port Charles.
Yes. He's also in the real Port Charles on General Hospital, almost marrying Catherine Bell, which I totally forgot about that storyline because then Lucy broke them up.
Yep.
Because Catherine said that she was friends with Dominique. I remember that stuff.
Okay.
But barely. Like, that's the thing. But then if that happened in 1993, how do I remember that, but I don't remember Dominique?
Maybe your friend's mom just really liked those characters and didn't care about the rest.
Or maybe because Catherine Bell was so prevalent, like, later on when I was really... Because, like, Stefan and everything like that, and Mac.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I remember all of that, so maybe I'm mixing memories with that. Just scary. But in the meantime, while Scotty's off being married to 3 different people and having 3 different children at 3 different times, because guys can do that, girls can't.
Right.
I mean, it's...
one per customer.
Yeah. So Lee was staying busy in the courtroom. He was defending Edward on the murder charges of Bradley Ward.
Oh, yes. Oh,
and,
my gosh.
Yep. And
the Ward family was amazing. We have to cover
them
eventually.
I miss Justice.
We've got to cover them.
Loved him.
Yes.
We will cover the Ward family. And then Dr. Devlin, who was accused of the general homicide serial killings, and Julie is Dr. Devlin.
Mm-hmm.
And it turned out that she was being like brain controlled by another doctor. So Lee actually got guardianship of her. I feel like this is one of the last really good storylines that they got. Lee became her legal guardian, and Gail helped her get committed to Ferncliff to get the help that she needed. In the 90s, Gail also... So while Lee's in the courtroom, Gail's returning to work at General Hospital. She helped Monica through her breast cancer diagnosis.
Oh, yes.
And...
that was when Emily was being introduced.
Yep.
Because Emily's mom had breast cancer.
It sure is.
Oh.
So that was the 90s. And then Scott comes back because he left again.
Right.
We just don't know when. And he was looking for Serena, thinking that Lucy had kidnapped her, which she didn't. And it was like Dominique's half-brother or something was coming for her estate. I don't know. I did not read all of that because we are sticking to the Baldwins, and their branches, and obviously there's diverts off it. But
Yes.
one thing that I wrote down was that in 2000, no, that was in 97. And then in 99, Lee had a pulmonary embolism.
But that wasn't what killed him.
No. He
Regained consciousness from it.
Yeah, but he was just like really worried about his family and everything. 2001, Lee and Gail supported Scotty rekindling his relationship again with Laura. However, they called it off. 2003, Karen passed away when she was hit by the car. We already talked about that. And 2004 was Lee and Gail's last episode. Do you know what it was?
No.
They attended Lila's funeral. And that was their last episode.
That's devastating.
It's horrible. I mean, I know.
That makes
sense. 15
again.
years ago.
I can't believe that.
I mean, it feels like, oh, yeah. I remember where I was when Edward passed away. I was getting ready for work and it was on like the morning news and I just started crying. I'm like, no. So I get very emotional.
I've noticed.
Well, when you grow up with these people, they wind up, I mean, Edward and Lila were like our grandparents, you know? And then I just said that Scotty comes in and out for a few years and we find out that yet again, I think it's in 2007, he comes back and we find out that he has another son. Oh no, sorry, this is the first son that we find out about, Logan Hayes. And then he was eventually killed by Lulu. In self-defense. Because then I also forgot about Cooper Barrett. And then I started going down that and I was like, oh, that's right. Yes. And
Franco, you're missing one child.
No, wait, I'm getting there. We're only in 2007. I still have a few years. It's okay. Hold it. 2007. And then 2013, Scotty and Laura remarry, but they eventually divorce again in 2014. And then in 2013, we find out that Scotty is Franco's dad from a one-night stand with Heather Weber.
Which is just gross. That lady is crazy all the time. I don't understand how anyone had any interactions with her.
I believe that he was passed out drunk and Cookie, get down. She did things.
I see.
And in 2007 he came back to Port Charles and said that he had been visiting Laura while she was comatose. And then that's when the whole thing came out where he actually killed Rick Weber and then Lulu was trying to tell her that to wake her up. And then he starts freaking out on Lulu. And then Laura wakes up and now we're fine. And in 2008, he becomes DA. Apparently, I remember him losing it, but I forget if they didn't list when, because then it says that he regains it, I think, in 2013. So I forget exactly what happened. And then Lee passed away in July 2017 after actor Peter Hansen passed away on April 9th, 2017. So when this episode releases, it will have been a day after the 2-year anniversary. And I did not know that. And they actually announced his passing in July. And then about a year later, we had Gail pass away and we just had her. Well, I mean, Gail's passed away for quite some time now, but we just had her reading of the will during the episode. And then I just said that, and Franco marrying Liz brings the Baldwin Hardy family back full circle.
There you go.
So.
That nice jailhouse wedding.
Yes.
Are they going to do a real wedding?
I don't know.
Those boys deserve a real wedding.
Yeah, I don't know.
And that would be the opening to bring back Sarah.
Yes, but I feel like that's gone. Because they kept talking about the fact that they were going to invite her. So I was like, ooh, Sarah's coming back. And then she didn't. So it's like,
maybe
is it pointless to do it
is
now?
The end of it.
Maybe it is.
But that would make me sad. I feel like as much as Franco drives me crazy, that love story was still a good enough love story that it deserves a special day. One that actually goes through. That there's not a earthquake or a fire or whatever to stop it.
So do we think that Liz and Franco are going to have any more kids? No. Or do you think that they will do what we have seen multiple times is adoption or fostering, or because there is pretty much a whole lot of no blood in the Baldwin family tree. Technically Scotty is not a Baldwin.
Right? Right. That's true.
Right. But
I don't know. Do you think Franco has some kids out there that we're gonna
Oh my
learn about?
gosh. Oh no.
He has 4 children that are gonna show up over the next 15 years.
I totally forgot about Logan though.
I did too.
Because he was only on for a year. They were only on for a year.
Yes, I forgot about him until it said
cutie.
that Lulu killed him, and I was like, oh, I do remember
Yep.
that. I do.
Yep. So
We had said earlier who was Scotty's real father. It was a man named Lloyd.
yes.
So
Okay.
just since we
So
said
just a man named Lloyd.
back on that, a man named Lloyd. One of the other websites I'm sure had a name somewhere, but it didn't develop him as a character. So I think it was just one of those that had to have a name to say
Right.
who it was. So
there's a lot of those.
Yes, in case anyone's wondering, it was Lloyd.
It was Lloyd.
It was Lloyd.
We should just put that on a shirt.
It
was Lloyd. People are like, what? Like Scotty's dad.
Yeah, did you know?
It was Lloyd, and on the back,
history.
Scotty's dad.
Exactly.
No, but so what was the most interesting thing that you think that you learned about the Baldwin family? Either through your research or hearing mine.
Well, yours is like a rundown memory lane because I remember the different kids coming about and the different storylines. So that was just fun to hear about it, although I'm still mourning Karen's loss. I think the most shocking thing to me was, again, I know they said that Lee and Gail, oh my gosh, I can't believe I just spaced on her name there. Like, hello. Lee and Gail were his adoptive parents, but I did not realize that he had such a horrible childhood to end up with his 2 final parents. Oh, and another thing I learned that I thought was really funny, just because we keep hitting on the nurse's ball, is the baby that that Scotty adopted with Lucy, Christina, that we've never met.
Okay.
They acquired her at the 1999 nurse's ball.
When?
I don't know. We would have to go back and
Was she
see.
in one of the swag bags and that's when she went home?
Right, I don't know.
Was she sponsored by what's the Greek yogurt? Oikos?
Everybody gets everything.
Don't throw the baby out with the oil.
Right. Oh, you can't make me laugh like that. I'm sick. I'm going to start calling. No, so it said that her mother was a drug addict, or her mother was in Ferncliff.
Okay.
And had convinced everyone that she, was trying to tell everyone she was pregnant, but they just thought she was crazy and they didn't believe that she was pregnant.
They didn't notice her stomach?
I guess not. So then whenever she had the baby, she gave the baby to some drug addict and told her to raise the baby until she was mentally sound enough to get out of Ferncliff.
Oh.
And the drug addict mother said she couldn't handle this anymore and somehow had the baby at the nurse's ball, and Lucy fell in love with the baby, and then her and Scotty petitioned the courts and got custody of the baby and then adopted the baby and blah, blah, blah.
How did she afford a ticket?
I don't know, but I just thought, again, we talk about the nurse's ball. This feels like something.
Lucy got a baby at the nurse's ball.
In 1999.
We're going to have to look that up.
Yes, Lucy gets a baby at the nurse's ball.
Yeah.
So that to me was, I don't know if I'd say interesting, but just what kind of thing.
That is absolutely crazy. So do you think we should do the Hardys next week?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was just thinking, because they're really close to the Baldwins. So. Right. Well, not close.
Have a few more people that are still alive that we can get into it, because.
Well, Audrey's still alive. She's just not been on the show. Why didn't she come back for Gail?
Yeah.
We need to talk to Miss Rachel Ames.
Yeah.
Write her a little note.
Excuse me, this doesn't make sense. Yeah.
She probably doesn't have email.
The whole world has email.
I don't know.
All right, so what was your favorite part?
Funny how Lucy got a baby in the swag bag.
I don't think that Wikipedia said it like that.
I think I'm kind of like you, just remembering how much I don't remember, realizing how much I don't remember, and really learning more about Scotty's background, because it kind of explains the way that he is a little bit, that he's had so much loss. I mean, he has one child in Paris that he never talks to, and he has two children that have been killed.
Right.
And Serena, who we don't know who's taking care of her.
Well, she's
an adult now, but I mean, it's been some time since she's really had some parental guidance.
Maybe she'll come back for the nurse's ball.
Maybe. Well, she's in Paris. Maybe Lulu's visiting her.
Maybe. Maybe.
Maybe she's a therapist.
She can watch.
And she's helping Lulu.
She can watch Rocco while Lulu
She
goes and gets the
can
therapy that she needs.
Maybe she and Christina are au pairs, and they are au pair therapists, and they are going to help Lulu.
That would be a good twist. We should become writers.
We should. General Hospital writers, you can reach us at peer54podcast@gmail.com. We are open for consultation. We are available for consultation. No, but I really think that was, for the most part, all the storylines kind of wrapped up, except for that hot mess of
everything goes together except for
93, 94.
Port Charles. That's where Port Charles comes in, because part of that was the whole vampire blah 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 stuff.
Yeah.
That like that storyline, the Baldwin storyline did go into that with Lucy and him, and that you've got to see Christina on Port Charles.
Right.
Like, she grew up for a couple years on Port Charles, but yet never made the crossover back to General Hospital. So.
She'll be back. I bet she's in Dawn of Day.
There you go.
Ooh.
Oh my god, that would be so
Oh my gosh, because she's one of those like little.
We really could just write for the show.
Oh my gosh. I found my calling.
Yes.
All right, so next week we will talk about the Hardy family. And fun fact, I have a friend named Steve Hardy.
Oh, there you go.
We talked about that when I met him. I was like General Hospital.
Did he say no? Like, he had no idea what
He
you were
knew
talking
exactly
about?
what I was talking about. He's like, no.
It's like now anytime that you meet someone named Jake, you have to like, Jake from State Farm.
Aw, that's sad.
It's true. Don't name any future children Jake.
I'm not having any more children.
Any grandchildren Jake.
Okay. I don't think I know a Jake. That's what I'm trying to think. I'm like, I don't think I do. That's really sad.
That is
Jake from State Farm. Khakis. Sorry. Yeah, I guess that's it.
Hope you enjoyed the Baldwin family recap.
And we'll meet you at the pier.
Bye.
Bye.